Hi, Tina. Welcome to the podcast. So good to have you.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Of course, of course. So Tina is a now clarify it for me. Financial planner. There's CFPs. There's CFAs. There's CF everything. CPAs. Tell us
Yeah,
about your credentials and what that exactly means for our audience in terms of what you cover.
it's definitely some of the terms are used a little bit more loosely. I know with our office, we have to have certain credentials to be able to call ourselves certain things. And in our team, we have each and every one of those spots on our team. So if I don't hold that credential, someone else on our team does. So I'm a financial advisor, or you can call financial planner, and I have my Series 6, 6.3. I'm working on my 7 and my CFP right now, as well as my RICP. And those are just like a bunch of letters to all y'all. But RICP is the newest one that is retirement income certified professional. I'm on my last test of 3 tests there, and my Series 7 should finish this year too. So those just have to do with what the rep or the representative can recommend to you, can sell you, as well as maybe from a fiduciary standpoint, a suitability standpoint. Those words are misinterpreted interchangeably as well. But I know with our team, we have each one of those CHLU, CHFC, CFP, CFA. So all of those on our team, we're very well versed. I'm not a one man show by any means. I definitely utilize partners like you or anyone else that would be an integral part in a business owner's planning.
Yeah, and if that felt like alphabet soup, guys, it really does when you're in this profession too. Sometimes we are all just kind of like, what is each acronym? What does each professional do? And at the end of the day, what I would say is we all serve clients trying to make them more wealthy. That's all. That's all
Yeah,
we're trying to do.
yeah.
So as a financial advisor, tell us about how you help, let's say, the entrepreneur listening right now, the small business owner who's making some money, they're actually doing pretty good. They're making a profit and they're thinking, okay, Tina, so where do I even start? How do I even know what to do to plan for my future? I've got money now, maybe they didn't have before, and they have no idea what to do.
Yeah, I would say I think the good part is I am just like them, a business owner, just like you are. And so both of us are really good candidates to help them relate because we may be a few steps ahead or we know what it was like when they first started. I would just say, honestly, start from the basics, which would be spend as little as you can, and treat every income as if it really doesn't exist. I would with I know I've heard you say this before, which we agree on, which is separate those accounts, business and personal. In the beginning, it's going to be kind of hard as it'll all probably run from your personal account. But as long as, one of the first things that I did was I put money on a bookkeeper like monthly, just because it's like not my area of joy. So I delegate things that I don't find joy in doing, but I love that someone else is doing it. I love having the double check of that. So I would say understand your cash flow in and out, so income and expenses, and then separate those bank accounts. I think is pretty easy and standard. It doesn't specifically have to be a business account. You can just treat it like one, and have a great team of people that believe in your vision. Someone like you, someone like me, maybe are considered their board or their kind of guidance. I would say that would be the easy gist. And if you can, I would for sure hold back a substantial amount of money for whatever long your sales cycle may be. So let's say if you're a real estate agent, that might be a longer sales cycle. 9 months, 10 months, especially if you don't have dual income. That's what I would do for sure. And then, again, if you have big flows of money that come in irregularly certain times a month, don't think like that's there. Just assume you are paying yourself that same amount, just like you're your own employee, every 2 weeks or every week or every month, however it kind of works for you. And that will help a lot. So in the future, when you're trying to hire or add people on your team or services later on, I think it would be beneficial.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Preaching everything that I preach on this show and everywhere. So I
That's what I
appreciate that.
on the first day I met you. I was like, she is totally on the right page.
So, okay, so let's talk about for a second. You just mentioned like they get in the lump sum of money, right? Let's say they're an online coach. They had a launch, right? Like every 3 months, and they had this huge influx of income. And let's just say that they have enough to cover. They have a good cash flow. They have enough to last the next 3 months until the next sales cycle restarts, right? But they're ready to take that money and have it work for them. They're ready to start going, I'm ready to go and plan for my future. I'm ready to start thinking about people other than my immediate needs, right? Because there's this hierarchy of needs, right? They're up, they're past survival, they're good. What
Yeah.
if they're just trying to plan for their future and they really don't know where to start because maybe they've only ever had their company's 401k plan, or they've just kind of fallen into generic advice. What could a financial advisor offer them? And, where do you recommend they kind of start out once they're ready to invest or ready to start thinking about that stuff?
Yeah, I would always say that this is kind of a hard situation when you're talking with business owners because there's often, personal life happens where they want to buy a house or a car or they feel like they're bankrolling, right, which is great. Or they want to invest in their own company in the form of a person or a product to help provide, or maybe a website designer or something like that. So I would want to just make sure all those short-term goals or anything in the future short term would be, taken care of, because you really want to encourage the business owner, like, we believe in your dreams too, and we want to help you as well. So I don't want you to feel like all this money has to go to, for example, retirement planning or anything like that. So when we were working with the business owner in the beginning, we always say defense and offense. So we do work in defensive planning, then area of efficiency, and then offensive planning. So anything that defensively could blow up the business. So maybe they'll need a loan in the future, so they need, maybe want to set up some things to where in the beginning where they don't need it right then, but they will maybe need it in the future. So it could be things as simple as, so for me, I did a home equity line of credit because I was like, I had $100,000 line of credit. So what the great part about it for me was like, okay, well, if I don't use any of the money, I'm not charged any interest at all, which is great. But it was a great way to have access to cash on demand if I were to need it. And I did. I hired someone and I was like, I didn't know it was going to happen. It was just like the perfect person. And then I was like, well, I need money now. So rather than going through maybe like applying at a bank and like, waiting 30 days and then showing your reputation for earning, which looks like nothing because you're trying to write off everything, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was one thing I did, as well as I did a loan against my life insurance. I set that up really early when I was young, not because I didn't think I was going to die or anything, more the way you can use the asset. And I used it again when I was hiring. I needed some money and I needed some of it quickly, and also used it for buying a home on a whim as well. But obviously, you want to pay these things back because they do incur interest. But with the help of people like you can write off that business interest and things like that. Things like if they're making above a certain amount and their main concern would be a deduction, like if they're making a boatload and they just really are wanting a deduction, those could be like a SEP IRA, which stands for self-employed plan. And there's a calculation between how much you can actually put away up to a certain amount. There are things like you can put in place a traditional IRA if you're not trying to put away a ton. And then you have to also take into account if your spouse, how much your spouse is making, as well as if they have a 401k at work available too. So it's kind of like one of those math problems at school when you're like, if Sally does this, can Joe do this on this day? And that's kind of how that works, which obviously working with people like you, it's going to help in that situation. And we always include like, hey, consult your CPA, right?
Yeah.
There are things, if they're not making a ton because they're writing off everything and they're in a lower tax bracket anyway, and they would rather pay the tax now than to not pay it in the future, they can do a Roth option that can be in the form of an IRA or 401k. There are solo 401ks they can create. So there's pros and cons to everything. It would just depend on how much they want to put away, if they're doing it for the purpose of would they want to be able to access any of the cash without penalty, things like that, as well as are they doing it to retain employees? So anything like that would help the financial advisor help guide you to what's going to be the best one for you. Hopefully that was. Probably a long-winded answer.
No, it's fine.
There's
So
simple IRA, there's all those other ones, so it's, like, kinda hard.
yeah, exactly. There's so many different options to choose from. And I think a lot of folks just see the 401k, they hear
Mhm,
about that or they hear about IRAs and they don't really understand all the flavors of everything that they're available to them.
mhm.
I'd love to unpack a few of those in a second, but what I heard you say underneath all of that was really that it depends on your goals, right?
Yes.
It depends on your goals. And we're in this constant, at least from where I sit, I'm in a constant cycle with entrepreneurs who say, I want to save for retirement. Okay, what are your goals? And they don't know, or
Yeah.
they need help coming up with that. And I think it's a constant cycle of I don't know, what should they be? I'm like, I
Mhm.
don't know, what do you want?
Mhm.
And that's why we that's why I think it's a struggle because we have to understand what your personal goals are for your future, and we have to start thinking a little bit more long term. And I think that goal setting is a skill. It really is. It's a skill. What would you say would be some of the ways someone could work on their skills of goal setting when it comes to their finances in terms of what are they looking at? What are they thinking about? And how are they articulating that?
Yeah, I would say probably to be better about it would be really thinking about what does the next 1, 2, 3 years look like,
Hmm.
and the ultimate vision, right?
Hmm.
Because these 1, 2, 3 year things are going to be the one that help kind of move it degree to left or right, right?
Hmm.
Because you can't just think only long term on that planning. And I think honestly, being women, having a woman advisor or a CPA, they're women just think spiderwebby, right? They're thinking this, and this, and then they're thinking like risk aversion. They're gonna be, I think, honestly, just the greatest people, or just a team of people are gonna be the ones that are thinking about things that you're not thinking of as a
Hmm.
business. So I don't know if I answered that question fully.
No, I think you did. I think that that's crucial to have a team, a diverse team, diverse set of perspectives. But in terms of like goal setting, what do you think are some of the best ways someone can try to define their own financial goals? Like, is because most people will say, my goal is to be happy and successful. My goal is to be a millionaire by age whatever. But like, what's the real goal? What are we really trying to achieve and how is our mark of success? That's what I always try to pull out of my clients and other business owners is what would you consider successful?
Yeah, so
And
I actually do ask that same question. One is to help me figure out, am I doing a good job? Like, if you
right.
say happiness, like I can't gauge that, right?
Yeah.
But I can definitely gauge, like when someone, when they are talking about their goals, we definitely always ask them, like, what keeps you up at night? And one of those things might be, what if my partner passes away? Like or what if we don't have enough money to da da da, or what if we can't pay this debt, right? So those would be goals that help them feel better, and we can check those things off.
Right.
Um, so I think that's one thing. And then another goal where you put marker on, which could be things like, I don't want to have to pay my taxes back like every year again. Like they feel like they're in this rat race every year where they're like suddenly paying it between January and April, like preparing to pay it. So sometimes we'll just put aside money for them every month so that when the quarter comes, we're like, hey, you made your quarterly payment. So it could be as simple as goals like that. So I would say our number one question is just like, what keeps you up at night?
Oh, I love that because it's actually getting to the what keeps you up at night is what bothers you,
Yeah.
what affects your life.
Mhm.
And then that's the gateway to bettering it, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So I love that. And I truly think that it's so important to really define your financial goals, not just in terms of I want to be a millionaire, I want to hit this number in revenue for my business, but what do you really want out of it? Do you want to, for example, like for me, my goal
Mhm.
is when I have kids, I want to be able to go to a soccer game without worrying about having to deal with like work or a phone call or feel like I'm missing out on my kids' future, my kids growing up. And that's so important to me that like if you actually dial it back, I have certain revenue goals to hit by a certain time
Exactly.
to have the freedom to then do so like it goes all the way back to what do you want to experience in your life in 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 plus 20 years.
Yeah, and all those can be solved mathematically. So similar to you, mine was like, I want to be able to be anywhere and do my job, and I'd like to have this, rental house, and I'd like to have this kind of car, and then this time off, like work 3 days, 3.5 days a week, or something like that. And then I back that up mathematically, like, okay, if I wanted to save to all my retirement accounts, save to my savings account, pay for my car, my houses, pay for 2 or 3 people on my team, and that rental house, and then I back that up mathematically. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I need to bring in like $13,000 a month. Well, how much would that be on the flip of, what do I need to do? And then I back that up into my average size client is X dollars, and then how much person does that size client make? And then I go look for and prospect for those clients, and then how many a month you need to do. So it all can be really worked out mathematically. I'm just a
Yeah.
grow thinker, I guess.
Yeah, I guess like cut from the same cloth, right? Like we can convert anything into numbers and start playing with them to figure it out. But that's why we do what we do, right?
Yeah,
So so speaking of that, hiring a financial advisor, it feels like such a grown-up thing.
it
It
is.
feels like so adult, so responsible. But I think there's a lot of folks who are probably listening right now going, financial advisor, ugh, like I can't hire that. Like I don't have enough money for that. I don't have enough finances to advise on. How do
Mhm.
I, you know, it's this chicken and the egg thing, right? It's kind
I
of
know.
like how do you plan for your future and your finances when if you think that you don't need that person, right? It goes back and forth. So what would you say is your advice about hiring a professional financial advisor?
Yeah, every planner has different ways to work with you. So I would just be open minded to the conversation, just like their business. Hey, when you're reaching out to your own prospects, you're like, hey, I just want to learn about what you do, what I do, and see if it makes sense for us to ever work together. So I would just be open minded. I feel like oftentimes people come at me like via emails, like, what do you charge? And I'm like, well, I kind of need to know your situation, because your situation might be something that I wouldn't even want to charge for, right? It wouldn't be in your best interest for me to charge you, or maybe it'd be in my best interest to just refer you to someone else.
Right.
There are different strategies. You could do a fee-based planner. You could do, it depends how much money. Maybe you have an old 401k and they started their own business. So maybe that advisor would take you on because of that old account and give you free advice the whole year long, on top of that. So I would just say be open-minded to the conversation. That's
Yeah,
all.
I 100% agree. And I actually, people do that to me all the time too, right? Getting the DMs, like, how much do you charge? What, wait. So it's like, you don't go into a nice Italian restaurant and go, how much does it cost to eat here?
Yeah, yeah.
It depends. Are you going to order like the appetizer? Or are you going to order a steak and a bottle of wine? Like it really, there is variety.
Mhm. 100%.
Yeah. So, and I think that there's this stigma with hiring a financial advisor, a financial planner that, that I'm not ready for that yet. Well, give it some thought. Be open-minded because you know what? If you met with a financial planner, financial advisor and learn what they did, you at least would know where you want to be when you want to start that conversation or what you have to have ready to start that conversation. So you know what your homework is. Like Tina said, if you wanted to go and set your goals, define what those are, sit down with your spouse, sit down with your family and really go through what do I want the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years to look like?
Yeah.
And really sit down with that and journal on that even.
Yeah.
Then
Go
it
ahead.
can spiral into a really good discussion with a financial advisor.
Yeah, and I think like, some of my business owner clients, they're like, I feel like they're personal friends, and honestly, I love lots of their concepts. I love that they're passionate about it. So a lot of my work I do for them is honestly free, right? But I know that they're the best referrers, and I know that they're not going to be in that situation forever, especially if they're working as hard as they are. And so I want them to know, like, hey, don't forget about me. Like, we were chatting when you were like way over here, and that happened to one of my clients. They were making like, they filed for bankruptcy the year before, and then they met with me by referral from like a credit repair person, and then they were making like 30 something thousand dollars with me. But I like was like, I'm happy to help you if you're willing to put in some work on your side. So it was more like, hey, I need all your debts, I need all this. And they came back, they took it seriously. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm happy to help someone who's actually wanting to help themselves. That's obviously not all of my clients. It's like probably 10% where I'm like, enjoying, the work that I do. And the next year they made $500,000. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, I'm not even kidding. Like, if it's insane. And so, one, you just never know who you just want to treat everybody as equally and just as important as anybody else. I don't believe money adds more value to anybody else. I just believe that we can help other people that, have more money. There's a lot more things you can do. So I think that's huge. Like, you just never
Oh,
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk for a second from an educational standpoint. And this is not financial advice. We will disclaim the crap out of this thing in the show notes. But can you help educate my business owners out there
Yeah.
on what options they have to save for retirement? Just a few of them that maybe we hear about in the media a lot more. I mean, you hear the SEP IRA,
Hmm.
they might hear about the solo 401k.
Hmm.
What a lot of folks are overwhelmed because now they have to set this up because their company doesn't just hand them a piece of paper at HR and say sign this and you have a 401k. It's not that simple. They have to initiate a lot of this and it is overwhelming. So can you talk a little bit about what that looks like to set up your own retirement as a business owner?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of delegating. I know being a business owner, there's already so many things that's going on in your head what to do. So I would suggest meeting with a financial advisor to help set that up for you. And you just tell them how much you want to put away and what you want your retirement to look like. And, maybe they work a budget for you and you have leftover $2,000. Well, obviously they're not going to ask you to put all 2 grand in it because then you wouldn't be able to have any fun in life, right? So maybe $1,000 of fun money goes to you, and $1,000 of fun money goes to financial planning, right? And maybe a portion of that $1,000 goes to offensive planning, which would be retirement. So when you're having conversation with them, they can decide, with you if the solo 401k would be the good option, because there's pros and cons to how much you can put in there, who else you have to put in there for as well, or if you did a SEP IRA, you'd have to put in for every one of your employees the same percentage as you put in for yourself. So that's probably sometimes not a great thing unless you're like a solo business owner, unless you just love everybody on your team that much. I totally get it. Um, there's like a simple IRA you could do, and that can be put as, if they put in, you match, right? Or it could be a standard match for everyone. Again, it's up to if you're looking at it from a perspective of wanting to retain your employees, and obviously if you like them that much, but also understand that that could be a tax, right? A tax deduction. So you're kind of you're kind of balancing all those things. But at the end of the day, I would say delegate, just like you delegate stuff to your CPA, delegate stuff to your financial advisor.
Perfect. So if folks do want to delegate that and they want to work with a financial advisor, what is the best way for them to get in touch with you, for example, if they want to work with you?
Yeah, I am such a millennial that honestly you can like DM me, LinkedIn me, Instagram me, Facebook me, go to my website at www.tinathoang.nm.com, or my Instagram is easy. It's what would Tina Hong do? Um, just because, and honestly, my whole Instagram, it's not really business. It's kind of like, what would I do? I would eat healthy. I would travel. I would save money. I would do a CE. Like I'm pretty open book and like a genuine human being.
And I think that's what attracted me to you on Instagram too, was just like it's not just all financial stuff and lectures, it's just lifestyle and that's actually what we're all here for anyway, is to help you maintain your lifestyle as long as possible. And there's nothing wrong with having personality and running a business like this.
Fun. My job is fun. You look like you have a hell of fun in your job too. Like that's what I'm here for. Doesn't
Yeah.
feel like work lots of times.
I totally agree. I totally agree. I love helping fellow business owners and having fun in the process. So, this is awesome. So, I'm going to ask a couple of rapid fire fun questions for
Sure.
you that I ask all my guests on the show. And yeah, it's always really fun. So, from a financial advisor's perspective, this is going to be an interesting answer. But what is one investment, Tina, that you currently can't live without?
Oh my god, like My go-to answer is just invest in yourself, and that's through knowledge. But I don't know if that's what you're going
I
for.
love that. No, this is up for interpretation. What is one investment you currently can't live without? I like that. So
Yeah, I'm
investing in
listening
knowledge.
to podcasts like this, like audiobooks. I mean, I'm taking TED Talks, masterclass. I'm like book fanatic. I'm trust me, I am taking like 3 CEs right now or 3 certifications right now. I'm just one of those people.
I love it. What's one thing you learned about money growing up that turned out not to be true?
Oh, okay. Um, I want to say it was something maybe from my dad. Okay, not all credit cards are bad. So if you actually know how to use a credit card right, which is honestly pay off your balance every month, and the stipulation of credit, keeping people always tell me this, you got to keep a balance on your credit card to have good credit. I have never paid an ounce of interest in my freaking life, but I borrow money from those people all the time, and I pay it off every month. And I have an 843. Okay, so and I did that by starting. I bought my car when I was like 18 years old. So
Yeah. I did the same thing. The first thing I got was a car loan and I was like, why should we finance it? My dad explained to me, he's like, you're going to get credit. You're going to build up credit and this is going to be great and you're not going to pay it off until here. And I was just like, why? I have the money to pay for he's no, you're going to finance a part of it because you want to get good credit. I didn't understand that at all until like 5, 10 years later. And I was like, oh,
that's
okay. Now,
funny.
now it's starting to make sense now.
So that
So
exact same story happened to me. I had all the money, but they didn't make this car anymore, which is why it was like a $7,000 Daewoo Laganza. I made 3 payments because my dad said the same thing. He's like, "You need to build your credit." So I didn't trust myself to hang on the money. So I made 1 payment, 2 payments, and then the third one, it was like a tootsie pop. Like I paid it off.
paid it all off.
Yeah.
I love it. So, all right, last one, Tina. What makes you feel like a millionaire?
Oh my god, my lifestyle. I feel like I am able to, not in a bougie way, but I mean, like, I feel I'm able to, like, if I don't really resonate with a client, I am more than happy to refer them to someone else. I think being able to control who I get to work with, and that comes from a partner level too. So even if I get disrespected on that level, I'm like, you know what, we weren't a great fit. Let's not continue to work together. And same thing with the client. I love that control of my schedule and my clientele. That makes me feel very powerful.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I couldn't agree more. There's something that just hits different about getting to work with the people you want to work with and not having to work at a company where they serve clients that you can't stand.
Yeah.
You get to decide who you work with, when and how.
I think that's why working with business owners is like so like relating, you relate so much to them because you're like, that's why you became a business owner because you're so independent, you know?
Exactly, exactly. Well, I've loved having this chat with you, Tina. I think our entrepreneurs listening learned a lot about what to expect out of working with a financial advisor, or whether it's just setting their financial goals for their future. There's a lot more to it than just the accounting and the tax stuff that I talk about all the time. This is how to keep what you earn, but then let's talk about how to grow what you keep, right? And how to actually plan for your future with it. So, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your knowledge with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Shannon. Just listen to anything Shannon says.
I did not pay her to say that.
She's right. She
Uh,
did not.
All right. Thank you so much, Tina. And hopefully, we'll be seeing you again on the show soon.
Yes, I'm excited. Thanks,
All right.
guys.